Good evening, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. I had to jump on here quickly to go ahead and introduce something that is coming. Um, I wanted to do the first part, but I have not been given the release to go do it yet. So I'm going to do the introduction. So, mm, just- Spirit just touched me. So I have been talking on a few things, even kind of hinted at a few things, and I think it was 2 videos ago about a few topics where God is taking me to kind of address, and I want to prepare you because it's one of those topics that people don't want to talk about. I don't know why people want to run away from the truth, but we're going to talk about some things. We're going to demystify some things. I'm going to irritate some people because I want you to be irritated enough to go look it up, to seek it out. And this message is mainly for the biblical scholars and text readers, and they do a lot of research, but they don't do research. Um, a lot of times people will pursue a message without doing research. And then they have to come back and say, "Oh, well, I was wrong for this." And some people don't do that. They know they were wrong. They know they misspoke about something, and in turn, they just like, okay, well, it is what it is. Um, but now is the time in history of this earth where we have to start talking about some things, and we got to stop brushing it under the rug as if it didn't happen, it didn't exist. um, the things were changed and reversed according to man's law and not necessarily by God's law. Uh, these things were not divinely inspired, they were just changed. We are in a place in time where people will disregard something and change it to make themselves look good. It's called manipulation. Which is why in the Bible, at the end of the Bible, it talks about do not take away and do not add to. And the purpose of that is because when you give people misinformation and they take it as gospel, they live in it. And what they do is they live in error for so long. And they teach other people how to live in error for so long. And because people do these things and they live in error, it causes people to miss out on opportunities that were made to help advance them. They miss out on opportunities that where they will be in God's divine will. I mean, and then there's others who don't, but then it's like they make it in um what's the word? They make it in off of average scores when they could have been cum laude graduates of life. Let me put it that way. And there are some examples, modern day, and I say modern day loosely because I mean modern day as in on this side of what is it, AC, after Christ. And then there's some before BC that we see a few things and they kind of align, but people misinterpret it. People have misused language, basic vocabulary words. And that is why, as someone who loves history, as someone who loves to do research, I do not mind taking the time to do the research outside of what I just read. The thing about history is that if you take out HI, you got a story. So, who is telling the story? Who is writing the narrative? Who is writing the belief system? When you have, and we see it today, right? We have government, whole government right here in the United States, who deems books as what is it? Books that need to be tossed away. Basically, they throw away literature. They throw away certain concepts if they do not agree with it. And if the majority of people who wrote things, the slim 1%, decides who and what to read, who and what to write, if they control the narrative, it is a story that has been intentionally misinterpreted, intentionally hiding things from the massive amount of people who will be exposed to whatever this narrative is. And so this upcoming series is to kind of disrupt some things. Is to kind of pinpoint some things to people, because I have heard a lot of people that I love and respect, say some things in error. And it goes along the lines with when you are not in, if you're not in it, the only thing that you can do is you can surmise as to what the people or the person do, right? Like I am a man. I can't tell you the lived experience of a woman because I'm not a woman. I can't tell you what it's like to go through puberty as a woman. I can't tell you what type of what a medical exam from the perspective of a woman. I can't tell you what going to the bathroom, and that's a basic everyday thing, is like as a woman. I cannot. I can only surmise. And what you do is surmise, is you come up with things that may or may not be true for the lived experience of that person or a group of people, right? Um, for example, there are people who adamantly are against fraternities and sororities. And, I'm not here to change your mind, but, and I have often said on this platform, what you have to do is think of it this way. These are not secret societies. There's nothing secretive about what we do. Now, are there certain things that we do? Yes. That is not open to the public. Let me clarify. Yes. And that is because there's no business that has everything on Front Street. There's none. When you sign non-disclosure documents with the job, do you leave the job because they have asked you not to share any findings that you have done in your particular role? I'm sure people don't. Even when it comes to HIPAA, right? And we all should know what HIPAA is. If you don't, go look it up. Um, HIPAA is a law that protects people's private information. And as a doctor, as somebody in the health field who works with that patient, they are not to disclose the information. You know that the person is a doctor. And in some cases, the doctor's profession is hidden, to not disclose the information about why this person came to see this doctor. So there's certain things where you don't know all of it, but you know of its existence, right? But people are so quick to demonize things because of the lack of understanding, because of the lack of knowing from a firsthand perspective what it's like. Now I can see. Like I asked my mother a question because I had a few aunts that wanted to be a part of certain organizations, and I asked my mom. I said, were you ever like, did you ever think about going down that road? And she said no, and she had her reasons, but none of it was because it was a secret society. It was just what the people were doing in those times that she did not agree with. I agree. And I said, okay, I get that. But when you try to demonize something that you don't understand, please tell me how that is accurate information. That's like me going back to my first example, demonizing women because I'm not a woman. Oh, I think they call that misogyny, right? Hmm. That's if you want to know the base and true version of misogyny, that's what it is. It's the lack of understanding. And what does the Bible say about that? My people are destroyed for the lack of knowledge. And yes, even I am taking a bit of that, but the fact that it is stated, right? My people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge. That alone covers a whole lot. There's so much that we don't look at. And I haven't shared this in a while, but when somebody was talking about the Big Bang Theory, right? And I said it's not too far fetched. I said, but when you only have one piece of the information, your vision is skewed. If you take what they talk about in science and you take about what they talk about in the Bible and you put it together, you see the picture. The Bible states that one day for the Lord is 1,000 years. If you take science, science says that it took thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of years for the world to form. And they were formed by little cells called atom, atom. And these cells begin to rejuvenate and make things. So if a day for the Lord is 1,000 years, and science says it took 1,000 years for things to come about, that's about accurate. The Big Bang Theory, it just happened. God said, let us make, and it was so. Bam, it was made. Where I disagree with the Big Bang Theory is the fact that it says that the cells became something like a tadpole, and the tadpole became something like a fish that turned into a frog, that turned into this, and it turned into that. No, 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 no. Because why would the Big Bang Theory, if we having a Big Bang Theory, why would the Big Bang Theory say, bam, it is, and other things can't be bam as well, having their own? The only time that men and women were tadpoles, and we are all adults on this channel, so we know what semen is. We all know, and if you don't know, if you look at semen in a microscope, that it looks like a little tadpole swimming before it gets to the egg, before it goes into the egg. and starts to develop into what we now know and call a human being. That is the only tadpole like thing that I would subscribe to, okay? And I made it very apparent in middle school. I mean, middle school, high school. But so where else are we going when it comes to historical matters, when it comes to modern day things that may not necessarily be so modern? We talk about new age, but if the Bible says that there is nothing new under the sun, why are we calling things new when there's nothing new under the sun? Why are we continuously demonizing things that have been around for years? If you don't understand it, just say you don't understand it. It's like the music. We each have seen the rise and fall of different styles of music, of different dances, of different lyrics, how racy some of them were, how, what's the word I want to use? Demure others were. That's the accurate, right? And we each go through that as time continues. There's some new artists that I'm like, why are these children listening to this artist? They're not saying anything. And I'm sure that there's music that I listen to that there was a few people that said they're not saying anything. But shameless, unshameless plug. If you was born in the late 70s, the 80s, and the early 90s, we had the best music. Some of the artists that in retirement age now, they did have some really good lyrics. They talked about things, right? And I would even say the 70s too. I would even go, I would so much say the 60s, 70s, 80s, and early 90s. And I would say that because if you break down the music, if you literally looked at the lyrics break down things. But of course, like anything else, there are a few people who demonize music and will tell you that it is Satan's music, will tell you that you can't listen to this and listen to that and serve God at the same time, when God is the very reason why music exists in the first place. So why are we demonizing music? Yes, there are demonic people and demonic possessed people that have gotten a hold of the music, and we see this now. However, we cannot demonize music because in it, God still divinely inspires people to write certain things for a reason. God still divinely has his plan operating. If we saw how God used people, demonic and possessed people and evil people in the Bible to get his plan to work, why now in today's time we are now saying that it is impossible for God to use somebody demonic in the year 20 and 25? Why? Why can't God use an R&B singer? Why can't God use that person to get a message across to somebody who would then turn to God and give their life to God? Please help me understand this. But see, this is where we have come to, and I'm saying we loosely, this is where we as people and as humans come to, even to the point where if you look at other cultures in other countries under the Christian faith, they all have this same belief. And that to me is limiting God. We talk about how good and big and great God is, yet we limit God to man ideologies. Anything that man can come up with and say and do, we say this is our God. God is not going to do nothing crazy. God literally made woman out of the rib of man. Says so in the Bible, right? Why do that when God could have just created woman out of the dirt of the earth? The same dirt they made Adam with, right? God wanted us to know that we're one in the same. Just like he split himself into 3 different entities, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. We're one in the same. And so now when we have different people and different cultures and different names, why are we now saying it can't be God? That can't be God. I have several friends in Africa and I look at some of their names and they're unique, right? We would say we would never name somebody like that. But to them, our names are unique, right? Does it make one culture demonic because they name certain names? Just because you meet a woman and her name is Sunlight Daffodil McKinney, and I'm just doing something. I don't know if there's a McKinney last name or not. Are we going to look at her and say, oh, well, she has an interesting name. She must be one of those people. She's demonic. And she come back and she says, my name is Sunlight Daffodil McKinney, and I am the prophetess of Africa. And she come down and send you an anointed word, and you slain in the spirit, and you rolling all over the floor, and people looking at you because your name is Derek Jamal Harrison. And if your name is that and you're watching that, I'm just throwing names out the hat. And they're looking at you like, why is this man rolling from this, this is a powerful woman of God, and we've demonized her because of her name and because of where she's from. People demonize people from where they're from. If you from the other side of the tracks, baby, you don't belong here. Why don't I belong here? Why don't I belong here? And it's because of the fear that we push out onto other people. It's this innate ability to understand and comprehend that God can use anything and anyone. We have this, we put, what is the word? Biases. We put humanistic biases on God, who is a spirit, mind you, a spirit in 3 entities. I know the song says God in 3 persons, but really, a person is a human being. And technically, the only human being out of that triad was Jesus of the Christ. So when you say entities, now we're giving God godlike qualities. God, the Supreme Spirit and Creator. God, the Son, who became flesh. And then God, the Spirit, who rests and resides with us even now. And we try to limit all of that experience of God into humanistic qualities. And that is why we can't see a true move of God in people's lives and on the earth, because we're still trying to limit God and God's experiences. We demonize things that we don't understand, because truly that can't be God. We demonize people, and we demonize things of the earth. After God said everything on this earth I made was good. 100% satisfied, guaranteed, whatever stamp you want to use. God already put his stamp of approval, or her, however you define God. And that's why I'm intentional when I say that, right? Because how can we create a song? He is my mother and my father, and I won't let him down, and I won't, and then turn around and say God the Father, and he's he. And I say, God, she. And then when the artists, several artists have said, God is a woman, I've heard people get offended. What? How? God literally made man out of his image. Man, generally speaking, not man, the genetic code man, but man, as in human, out of God's image. What if we get to heaven and God is half man, half woman? Then what? Are you going to say, go, take me back to earth? I don't believe in this now. If you look at the Bible, the description of angelic beings is and demonic beings is enough to blow your mind. Wings with eyeballs, a being with the head of a man, the head of a lion, the head of an eagle, and the head of a bear. Lion's body, eagle wings, and tail of a scorpion. And you don't think you don't think that does not look scary at all. Read Revelations. Let it reveal some things to you, right? People used to be scared of that book, and I used to go to it a lot. Songs and Revelations used to be my books. Now, I didn't quite understand Revelations as a kid, but songs I did, right? But still, how can God create all these things? And we twist it. And twist it and make it gospel. That's the thing that gets me. We not only twist the word and make up our own stuff and use our humanistic imagination, and it goes to work, and it be working for us down here on earth, but then God in the heavenlies is like, say what? It's just like, I saw this thing recently. It was an African comedian, and he was talking, well, maybe, I think he was African. Anyway, he was a black man. Let me put it that way. And it was a depiction of, it was supposed to have been God and Jesus having a conversation. And God and the Holy Spirit was like, don't show Jesus this. Don't show him this picture of what they say he looked like. And Jesus come around and said, what? Oh, you know what? I'm about to cause a flood. I'm about to do it. How can these people think I look like that? Don't it say that I have hair like wool? And why do you have a permed pressed blonde hair, blue eyed man that was supposedly raised and reared in a culture that is hot and heat and full of brown skinned people? If the Bible said he had hair like wool, I think my hair texture is a little more closer to wool than a few. But yet, we took it as gospel and we ran with it for years. There was a lot of things I used to read in the Bible that I used to question of what I saw. Didn't realize I had a different perspective as a child. And that same perspective I still have. Is it kiddish? No. It was a divine perspective to let me see through the cracks of how and people speak, do, and move. Am I saying I'm a perfect individual? No, I'm not. But I saw how things were being imperfect and how people misunderstood things. So just think about that. If we've been doing all these things and now God is trying to wake us up, of course it's going to be scary. Of course, you're going to be angry at some of the things I have to say. But again, I encourage you, employ you to do your research, to dig a little deeper than your comfort zone. You may have to read some things that you don't necessarily want to read, but how can you understand anything without reading? Even in the sports teams, they review videos and watch the opponent's attack, watch the opponent's tactic and skills. And yet, on this plane, the only thing we can say is, oh, the enemy comes to kill, steal, and destroy. But we don't talk about how the enemy kills, how the enemy destroys. And yet, the very things that we do know of, we still water ourselves down. We still don't fully recognize and study to see how the enemy can come in. Some of the things I say, I'm sure people are going to be like, oh, well, that's the enemy. The enemy's fooled his mind and is blinded. Has he? Has he? I did the research. It aligns with what I'm saying. Think about it. How is it that people paint the devil as a entity that was what is it? Most of the time they have a goat's head with the Star of David on his chest. The Star of David, mind you, the Star of David. They call it a pentagram, but it's the Star of David. Come on. I even put that together as a kid. Same symbol, different name, always demonic. Okay. Pentagram means 5 points. The Star of David has 5 points, just to point that out. But we've painted this devil as a horned beast with bat wings, hooves. I don't remember the Bible describing the devil as such. In fact, the very thing that I do recall is that the devil, Lucifer, was among the heavenly angels. He was beautiful to look at. He had a beautiful voice. So if you're telling me that this angel who became Lucifer has gone from being the most beautiful of the angels, he probably was the beautiful angel, like the top. If you want to go to America's Next Top Model, he was the heaven's top angel. Okay, he won all the awards. He was so beautiful, right? So majestic, like. So how could Lucifer go from that to now he's a goat with bat wings? And God said he just kicked him out of heaven and threw him into the earth. He didn't say nothing about transforming the devil. And somehow, in our humanistic culture, we had transformed the devil for God. And this is why people are tricked. This is why people can't get their deliverance, because they're looking at the ugly things. And if it looks ugly, it's like, ooh, that must not be of God. But I'm going to go over here because this person looks holy. And this person looks sanctified and filled with the Holy Ghost and powerful. Ooh, I want to be under this person's presence. And that's the person that's taking you straight to the one-way street, one-way ticket to hell, while this other person has been sent by God and is an angel unaware, and you have mistreated this angel unaware. And that's how God works and operates. God's like, I'm going to see if people truly see the truth, which the Bible talks of this. The Bible talks about how people will rather hear the lie than to hear the truth. So for many of you, when you hear the upcoming videos, it does not bother me that you don't receive it at all. I am doing my part by putting it out here as God tells me to, right? And then I wash my hands of it. Because those who grasp it will grasp it. Those who need to hear it will hear it. and understand it. And those who don't. And I just had a confirming conversation with a prophetess from back home, and we both was talking about the same things. How when people put their mouths on us or try to do stuff to us, something ends up happening to them. So I will employ you, before you try to put your mouth on me, is to think about what I'm saying. Don't fall into the hands of an angry God over me. I'm just a messenger. Don't fall into the wrath of God in the year of blessings because you don't want to research and study and get out of your box to do this. Because when people confine people to boxes, those same people that's in the box teach other people how to get in that box. And if everybody's in the box, guess what? They thinking one way, one band, one sound. And that's all they know. And anything outside of that is what? Demonic. And as I just explained, you can't think that way. If God is, and I picture God as a free-flowing God, meaning there's no confinements to what God can do, who God can use. We saw it in the Bible. God used a donkey to talk to a man. And we don't find that strange at all. God giving the animals the ability to speak and communicate to a human being. What if God decided to do that in this year? And the animals start telling people business. What will your dog, cat, squirrel, chipmunk, skunk, horse, cow, pig, fly, gnat, cricket, frog, spider say about you? What would they profess to you about the things that you do in your home? People quickly forget how powerful God is and how God uses things to get us on the right track. You can go outside tomorrow and the rat out there on the loud megaphone. Repent, repent, repent. The kingdom of God is nigh. And what you gonna do? Especially if that rat is in front of your house and you are already professing Christ. What are you gonna do? So as I prepare you for what's to come, I ask you to take your notebooks, bring your pens, bring your recorders. This is a recorded session, so you can always come back to it. If you want to have a conversation with me, come on, let's do it. I love open dialogue. There's some things that I can't even explain of how I know them. I can't. All I know is that when I go to confirm it, it's confirmed. And that's all I'm going to say. Because on the flip side of this, it has been a pleasure. It has been enjoyable doing the writing, putting the pieces together, consulting with God about the things. Because I stopped asking God, you want me to say what? Like I stopped doing that. I stopped. Especially when I started getting the downloads in real time. Oh no, ma'am, no sir. I don't have time to ask God anything, to question God, right? That's what we teach people. We don't question God. But how do you learn? If the things you have been taught is not questioned, if it's not tried, right? So there's going to be many of you who enjoy it, love it, and embrace it. And I thank you for doing that. Not for my sake, but because you're getting the true word and the truth of God. And yes, it may look funny and funky, but watch how God begins to work in your life. Watch how doors begin to open for you as they have for me. So thank you all. You have a good night. If you haven't, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you. I will see you later. And as always, don't think about it. Don't try to be, don't even crave to be, right? Just be blessed. Have a good night.